In this video, let's try to understand conditional rendering in React. Here I have a user component. It's a functional component. It simply renders a hello message here. Now, what is conditional rendering? Conditional rendering means to render based on a particular condition. So here I'll just try to I'll add a use state here. Let's say called loading. Now this signifies whether some data is being loaded or not. So for the time being, I'll set its value as true. Now based on the loading value, we'll try to conditionally render some message in our HTML here. So here I'll add an if condition here, like if loading, I'll return the loading message. Is loading, right? Now, as you can see, since the data here is true, or loading is true, it will return this portion and it won't go to this return portion. Now I'll just do one thing. I'll just switch the loading portion to false. Means data is loaded. If I save this thing, you can see it goes to the second portion, which says data loading completed. That's how you can conditionally render the data. Now similar to this thing, you can also use ternary operators to do the same thing. So I'll just remove this thing. I'll just cut this thing and I'll remove this portion, right? And we can write the same thing using a ternary operator. So let's try it like using a ternary. For that, we just need to initialize ternary, and here we need a curly brace, and we'll check for loading. It's loading. Then we'll add a data loading message here, data loading, and if data is not loading, we'll say data loading completed, right? So this is also a way to write conditional rendering using ternary operator. I'll just switch this into false just for demo, and you can see it's still working, right? Similarly, we can also use the logical operator here also for conditional rendering. I'll just remove this thing, and we can do it like something like, we can check if it is loading, and we can use the logical operator. If its loading is true, then we'll show data is loading. If it's true, we'll say data loading. Similarly, so this will only work if it's true, right? Show is true. Similarly, if data has loaded, then we can say data completed. I'll just switch this thing to false, and you can see data loading completed message here. Now I'll show you one interesting scenario here. So it's not like, let's say this thing loading is an indicator of whether the data is being loaded or not. Similarly, once the data is loaded, we also might be having some data. So I'll just add another use state here called data and initialize it with some value. In this case, I'll just put in 1, 2, 3. So now once we have the loading as false, and it doesn't really make sense, and if we have some data, we'll show some message, right? I just added loading here. So now if data has loaded, or if loading is false and data is there and data has some length, in that case we'll show data, right? It shows 1, 2, 3. Now if this thing is empty, what do you expect to show? We expect key, it doesn't show anything, right? If I just remove this thing and save, it shows 0, right? Now you might not be expecting this. That's happening because data.length is 0, and anything and with 0 it turns to 0. That's why we are showing as 0 here. Now in order to avoid such situation, we can check the length should be greater than 0. In that case we'll show 0, or we won't show the data at all. So I hope you find this video useful. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.